Welcome to Aspects of Writing with your host, James Kelly. Now, let's get writing. Here's your host, James Kelly.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host, James Kelly, and my guest today is Kevin Dorsey. And Kevin, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, James.
You're welcome. Now, you have a varied career, and I'd like to go into that a little bit. Give us a little bit of your background, and then we're going to go into your writing aspect.
A little bit of my background. I was brought into the entertainment industry by Quincy Jones.
Wow.
My first project with Q was a film, The Color Purple.
Wow. La-di-da.
Then from there, I went to stuff like Out of Africa,
Wow.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Secret of My Success, The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast.
I understand it's taken you all over the world.
Glory, and a lot of the music side, like with Michael Jackson, Sting, Phil Collins, Elton John, Dolly Parton, Aretha Franklin, Whitney Houston.
Wow. So now, did this start off in music or voiceovers?
Yes,
or...
it started out in music. Voiceover didn't come until Ferris Bueller, when I had to do
Oh, yeah.
And then the voiceovers kicked in, McDonald's, Levi's,
Oh, wow.
Michelob, and all that kind of
Well, you
stuff.
definitely have the voice for it. That's
Thank
for,
you.
That's for sure.
Thank you. It's been great, and it's still great. I'm very thankful and very blessed.
Yeah, I'll tell you. And so you've been in music. You do voiceovers. Have you done any acting?
I'm not an on-camera person.
Okay.
Even though I've
Voiced,
naturally,
yeah.
But I've had to do a few things on camera, and acting is just a whole lot of wasted time in the shooting and all that. And it just, you can shoot one scene and you're there 2 days.
Yeah, I know. So for you, you want to get in there and get it done. And
You know, it's kind of half dozen in one hand, six in the other. I mean, because I'm one of those people who believe in you're there until you get it right.
Yeah.
I'm just not an on-camera guy. I mean, I shy away from photos and everything else. It is what it is, and it's part of the business.
So in a way, you're a star, but you're the behind-the-scenes star, in that you can kind of live life without having to...
Love that.
Yeah.
They call it a star behind the star.
That's fantastic. One of these days, I might make it with my writing. And I always said, I'm going to hire someone to do my autographs. I don't want to do that. I've done it. I don't want to do it no more.
Yes,
You know?
exactly.
So, yeah.
And that's me. I mean, I love to be able to go where I want to go, do what I want to do. And even my friends always say, if people didn't know what I did to make a living, they wouldn't know.
That's fantastic.
So I love it.
When you started off in music, did you do any writing? Have you written any songs?
You know, I've written some songs, for Gladys Knight and a few other people. And writing is, I literally went to college on Parkway Literary Scholarship.
Okay.
And I love to write. I always tell people, even in music, when you write a song, it's like you're writing an audio portrait. You're painting an audio portrait, should I say. And the music and lyrics are your paint and the melody. There's nothing like expressing yourself with words.
Absolutely. So when you start out in writing, I know we're going to get into a minute what you write now. Did you ever see yourself writing anything other than music?
I did not until I was on tour with Michael Jackson at one time on one of his tours. And I was relaxing in my hotel room, didn't feel like going out. And I just started thinking about my life. And I started to jot some things down on, you know how they have the little pad next to
in the hotel rooms?
Yeah, and I began jotting some things down about my life, and I did that for 9 years.
Okay.
And
so you kind of kept like a running journal on notepads.
Yeah, I from Switzerland, Tel Aviv, Moscow, all these little slips of paper. And out of those 9 years, and it wasn't like it was every day, every city, every country. In those 9 years, I compiled 19 poems.
Wow, that's great. Now, you didn't write them all in one day, or did you?
No. It took 9 years to write.
Yeah, you went over them, kept going over them.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to back up just a bit, because I always like to know something about who I'm speaking with. Now, I know you're Kevin Dorsey, but who is Kevin Dorsey? Where did you grow up?
Kevin Dorsey grew up in Akron, Ohio.
Okay, right.
And
brothers and sisters?
That's another part of the story. I was orphaned at birth.
Oh, okay.
And grew up in the system in a children's home and foster homes, and was adopted at the age of 6.
Okay.
And to tell you briefly how things changed, the same city I was orphaned in was giving me the key to the city by the time I was 24.
Oh, my goodness. That's a great story. Yeah.
I found my maternal mom and siblings after the only parents I'd known had passed.
Okay.
And unfortunately, it was kind of a be careful what you look for.
Well, if you ever want to read a good book, read The Foundling. I have a friend here in Las Vegas who that's exactly what happened to him. And it's not the story you think it would be.
Yeah. You know, it was interesting. It wasn't an Oprah moment for me.
Yeah.
I was doing a show with Phil Perry and someone else in Texas. And they were living there at the time, and I invited them to the show. And I went and met them, and like I said, it was an Oprah moment. Oh, my God, crying, and I love you, and I love you. And I'm just like, you don't know me to love me.
Yeah.
Long story short, it was what it was.
Do you think that influenced what you started writing when you started writing poetry? Or
No, I'd already done it.
You'd already done that.
Already done it. But the book that I wrote was entitled An Orphan Song.
Now, this is the book of poetry.
Yes.
Okay. Have you printed it out yet? Has it been published?
It's getting ready to be published. I've had a couple offers, but I laugh when I say this. Each offer, they want 5 more books. And I said, it took me a gazillion years to do. And I said, then someone said self-publish.
Come to me when you're done after the show.
Yes.
That's what I help people do. This show came about because I actually helped publish someone's book for them. And when I started in radio 9 years ago, they went and asked her, how did you do this? We always do a book launching party. And she said, go ask James. I really don't know. And the radio station said, do you think you could create a show out of this? I go, about writing?
Wow.
And I did the first show, and then it's been on the air for 9 years now. So.
And I wish I would have known. I've had a couple copies made up for myself just to Redline.
Okay.
Like I said, there are 19 poems.
Okay.
I stopped at poem 20 because my creativity began to take over. And the premise of the book is everything that I could recall prior to being adopted at 6.
Interesting. When you wrote the poetry, did you ever think about putting a chapter in between explaining the premise of the poem?
I did not, because I think the poems
Speak for themselves.
and they explain it.
All right. That makes sense, yeah.
And along with each poem, there's a photographer by the name of John Isaac,
Okay.
who's been photographer of the year. I don't know how many times. He's the photographer for the UN. I mean, he shot Princess Di, shot Michael, all these. And he donated a picture of a child from various countries to accompany each poem. So the opening poem of my book is one called I Stand Alone.
Okay.
Then you have a picture of one child.
Standing alone.
Yes.
So that's great. So you do have something other than the poems to put in there.
Yes.
Actually, that's kind of unique. I like that idea.
And it's everything. I mean, some of the titles are New Clothes, Few Clothes, How Will He Be, which this guy that I'm going to call Dad. Man, I would have brought one with me just so you could have said,
Oh, I'm very interested in this project for real.
And I keep thinking about it because, like I say, I first met Oprah from The Color Purple before she was Oprah. But now her book club sends people's things through the roof. And the biggest thing I want to do with this is to build shelters for homeless kids.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
And also to let kids know that you can make it.
When you were on The Color Purple, what did you do on The Color Purple?
I worked on the music, along with Quincy Jones.
Okay, so like arranging and that kind of
Yeah, but mainly we were doing a lot of vocal things.
Okay.
Yes, that was literally my first project in L.A.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
though.
and we were just doing a lot of things. A lot of people don't know when you have the orchestration and the score, a big part of that people don't know about is usually there's a chorus, a choir behind that, and they are the vocal orchestration of a lot of your big films that can fit that into their budget. And so I've been blessed to do an awful lot of that.
Yeah, that's an interesting arrangement, how they do the score and everything anyway. They usually have a live orchestra there, and they're creating as they go based on what they see on film.
Yes, and it depends. That's changed a lot because they used to have to send out the dailies and do this and do that and the other. It's, let's say, it's a good one, like when we were doing The Lion King.
Okay.
And Hans Zimmer was fortunate enough to do all 4 with him. We did the first one, and by the time we'd done the 4th one, it was 25 years had passed.
Wow.
And I was just like, my goodness, all 4, excuse me. And so to do that, and then you had Le Bohème from South Africa, and you're learning the South African dialect and this and that and the other. So just very, very interesting. And it's a big difference between The Lion King and Star Trek with John Williams.
Yeah, yeah.
But also, we did Amistad.
Okay.
And that was interesting because Stephen had just done Color Purple, which at that time had gotten the most Academy nods.
I should have won a couple Oscars.
The only one we won was Best Wardrobe.
Yeah.
And they say that was a little slap on the hand because Stephen did The Color Purple prior to doing Schindler's List.
Well, it's probably right.
And he turned right around and said, okay, and did Amistad. So, the business.
Hopefully the business is changing a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's getting better.
I think it is. I think it is. Man, I'm in year 37 now and feeling like it's year one, at least how I feel about what I do,
Yeah.
Because I love, my work is my play.
I can tell that about you already.
I just
You're
don't-
so chill. You're just laid back, and I can tell you love what you do.
Oh, my work is my play.
Yeah.
I just don't play with my work.
And that's what I like about what you can do, too. Again, you're smart in that you really are a star, but you're the star, like we said, behind the scenes. So it's so great. You can live your life, never have to worry about anything, and just continue loving what you do.
And that is so much fun. I mean, today, Dolly Parton, to tomorrow, Lionel Richie, to Danny Elfman, and at the Hollywood Bowl, we're doing Nightmare Before Christmas Live. I mean, it's never a boring moment,
That's great.
To be able to do and work. I remember people told me Streisand, she's going to be so tough, Kevin, to work for and work with. And she was just a sweetheart.
I think sometimes it's the personality, too, that makes the difference. If you're easygoing and laid back, I think people can see that. And you can understand, because you work in the business, how some of these people have to be guarded.
Yes. So.
I'm not going to mention the person's name, and I know you know this person. But there was a singer, mainly a singer and actress, who is one of those, when you go into a hotel, when you order room service, this particular person will not allow anyone to ring the doorbell, because in the suites, they have doorbells. And you have to leave it and then leave. And then when that person sees you're not at the door, she'll open the door and pull it in. And a lot of people, I used to work room service at one of the major hotels in Las Vegas. And they used to say, well, she's such a snob, or she's so stuck up. Well, I accidentally had to go up there one day and deliver something, and this person opened the door because they didn't know they were getting another delivery. And this person was very gracious and said, I don't know what's going on here, but come on in while we figure this out. What people don't understand is that someone in a certain status, the reason they have to be guarded is, like in this particular person's case, one day someone was delivering room service, a reporter had caught that this person was at the hotel, paid them to go up to the room with them so that when they opened the door they would take pictures, and this person had no makeup on, their hair wasn't done, and that's the next thing you saw out on the tabloids the next day.
Yes.
So sometimes we don't understand that maybe they're not being a snob, or maybe they're not standoffish. There are certain reasons they don't want those images out there. So it's not about you, it's about what society has placed on them.
And see, one of the big things is when you're full makeup, hair done, great wardrobe, that's not good news. Good news is catching you
doing something you shouldn't.
I always used to say Michael Jackson was the most misunderstood person I ever knew.
I can believe that, yeah.
Because how often can you be you?
He can't. He couldn't, really, except at home.
Yeah. I mean, every time we turned around, it was just like, man, I'm getting all this, and I'm just Kevin, the guy back here. And so I get Michael times 100 what I would get.
Yeah.
Man, I couldn't do it.
Well, that's why, like you said, I hope I never have to be in a limelight. I don't think I have that worry, but anyway, if I should ever, I would hope I can find a way out of it.
Yeah.
So let's go back into your writing again with the poetry. So when did you finish the last poem?
I would have to say I finished the last one. It's been easy 12 years ago.
Okay, and you've been studying on this for 12 years?
Because there's been so much going on, from having my kids to projects to starting a new company, and just every time I get ready to do something with it, here comes something else, and it just pulls me and has to have my attention. And I'm finally, like I said, I want to do something. It's very seldom I do something for Kevin.
Maybe it's time.
And I'm finally going to do something for me that's going to benefit so many others.
Now, is home Las Vegas or L.A.?
L.A.
L.A.? Okay.
Yeah, it's Los Angeles. Originally Akron, Ohio.
Yeah.
Man, my little city is not what it used to be.
Yeah.
When I grew up, it was the rubber capital of the world, and I mean tires. It was just an amazing little town to grow up in. It was like a little bit larger Mayberry. But
times change.
Yeah, times change. Sometimes for the better.
So do you think for Akron it was not for the better?
No, I do not.
Okay.
Unfortunately, when certain things come into play, like the drugs, the gangs, and things like that, and they just infect fest of smog.
You know, I've noticed, Kevin, that is becoming more and more prevalent among the rural communities in the United States.
Yes.
Which is kind of sad, because I grew up in a small community as well. And it is sad to see that.
It's horrible because, I mean, I have so many amazing memories from home. Every year there used to be this thing called the Soapbox Derby.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and that's where they'd hold the nationals there. And I always, man, I'm going to take my kids back and let them spend the summer and just have a great time. But, man, it's very seldom that I go home.
Yeah.
Because of the unfortunate crime rate now.
It's interesting, too, because coming from L.A., you would think it would be the opposite.
Yeah.
Like, you would think you'd be wanting to get out of L.A. But you're right. I mean, even when I go home, I'm from Oklahoma, and when I go home, I see the same thing. It's just not the same as when I grew up.
No, nowhere near it. And plus, it's like, from living in L.A., it's like stepping into a time warp.
Yeah. Do you ever feel out of place when you go home? I'm
Yes.
just curious, because when I go home, I do.
I feel out of place. I feel people look at me like I'm a Klingon or something like that. I mean, because I guess they can just tell you don't live here, you don't belong here.
Right. Just the way you walk, talk.
And I mean, it's not,
Look.
you're the same person. I mean,
Yes.
it's just that you come from, like here in Vegas or something like that. I mean, you come from these cities that never sleep, and it's just things are moving a mile a minute. And when you go home, you have to really slow
it down. Yeah.
And,
It's very laid back.
You know, streets that I used to walk down and seemed like they were huge. I said, let me take a walk and look over here and do this and do that. And what used to take me a half an hour takes me 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, you got an L.A. block and then an Akron, Ohio
Block. Yeah.
know?
That's exactly the way it is for me.
Yeah.
And also in the smaller communities in the downtown area, there's not as much activity.
Yeah.
Downtown's kind of going away.
They're trying to make our downtown there the metropolis, if you will. They put a semi-pro baseball field and team downtown, and they put a small outside amphitheater downtown, which is all great. Akron University is the largest facility there now, and it's a great university, huge. I mean, there are 50,000 students on that campus, but it's changed. And
Do you think that your past experiences, and it's been 12 years since you said you wrote your last poem, you think you have more in you? Okay.
I do, and it's all about me just slowing down and letting it go. They're about to shoot a documentary on me.
Oh, cool. I was going to ask you if you've ever written a book about your life.
They were supposed to start filming this past week, but my schedule
Didn't allow for
didn't
it.
allow it. So that's going to be fun.
I'll watch it.
You know, well, that will be Anthony Boldy. He's a producer down in L.A. He's doing it. It'll be interesting.
So does it start off when you were young and go forward, or
Yeah, they want to start from the beginning.
from the beginning? Okay.
Yeah.
You know why this is going to be a great story, Kevin, is because so many people don't understand that when there's a harsh beginning, you know, it's hard to imagine, how do I get out of this? And I think sometimes if you just live life, you figure out the way. You know, it isn't always about, what do I do now? How do I do this? You just live life and let it pass by.
Yes.
It's fortunate you had someone at 6 who did adopt you. I hope that was a good experience for
My
you.
parents were amazing. I mean, they were married 72 years. Good-
72 years?
Yeah, they passed at 94 and 96.
Wow.
My dad was engineer, aeronautical engineer at Goodyear Aerospace. He helped design the control panel for the blimp.
Okay.
I used to laugh because I was watching I forget the name of the film, and I just watched it, and the heating pads for the space shuttles and all that kind of stuff that kept blowing off. And I said, Dad, were you making those panels that were just not working? And then on the flip side of that, my mother was a maid.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
And it's interesting, James, that you say that, because as a kid, you're coming up and you're sitting in school and first day of school. And heck, Julie, what does your mom do? Oh, she's a nurse. Damn, what does your mom do? Oh, she's a teacher. Kevin, what does your mom do? She's a nurse too. It was that, you know, the little embarrassment. And
that's part of society. And
Yes.
I hope we can get past that at some point in our lives. I'm going to have you back on another show I have called The Common Thread, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Because I think that's part of what's wrong with society is that those are things that are taught, by the way. We teach our kids how to, and that's a form of prejudice,
yes, it is.
to be prejudiced. So the thing is we teach the kids to do that, and it's up to the parents, the new generation coming up, to avert that, to stop that, you know.
And I learned as I was getting older, still a kid, and I said, you know something? Great clothes, clean clothes, a roof over my head, stomach's full. You know, my mother's a maid.
You are blessed. That's the way you should look at it. You know, absolutely. But it's so funny, the dynamics in your parents, too. That tells me a lot about the character of your mother. She didn't care.
Yeah.
It was a job.
Yeah, and she did that all the way, I know, until I got out of high school. And my dad, he didn't retire until I got out of high school.
Well, I'll share more on my past when we do our other show.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of similarities there. But. All right, we're running out of time. So, Kevin,
you.
is there anywhere you want to share your work where people can go? I mean, you just shared with us all the movies you've been in, the musicals you've been in, the artists you've worked with. Do you have a page?
I do not. I'm that guy who...
You don't want it.
They made a Facebook page, and there's a lot of things in IMDb. People can go on and see a lot of the things that I've done. But I said sooner or later, even my kids keep telling me, Dad, do this, do that, do that. So I'm eventually going to.
Yeah, and you don't need to do any of that. You're living life to have fun, and that's what's important.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, thank you so much. This is Kevin Dorsey. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And this is James Kelly saying, if you can dream it, you can write it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Aspects of Writing. We hope you will join us next week as we discuss every aspect of the writing industry. Until then, if you can dream it, you can write it.